Hey, welcome to the show. I am excited to have David Wood with me. David has the YouTube channel Acts 17 Apologetics. David, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
So I thought this would be an awesome opportunity for you and I just to have a conversation about everything that you're doing in YouTube in kind of condensed behind the scenes format. So tell us a little bit about your channel, how you got started, what you doing with it.
Nabil and I got started doing the channel. I don't remember exactly when, maybe 2007 or something like that. But it wasn't Act 17 back then. We had some sort of other site that we used mainly for people who couldn't make it to one of our speaking engagements or one of our debates.
Right.
So we would say, hey, we'll be speaking in such and such area, or we've got a debate in the UK, and people who couldn't make it would say, can you post it on YouTube? Which didn't know much about YouTube, except people were posting silly videos on it back then. So that's why we actually started. And so it was kind of an afterthought for people who can't make it to what you're doing and stuff. And eventually we started using it occasionally for when we're out in public doing something. We made some sort of materials dealing with Sharia and stuff like that, and jihad and stuff, where we're just out and about. And so, but even then, it's still like an afterthought. It's something where, hey, we're out. Let's just let people know what's going on out here and so on. And it wasn't until I'm thinking 2010 where I started taking YouTube very seriously, and that was there was a guy named Terry Jones in Florida who was having a Burn the Quran Day, and I had a debate with Terry Jones on whether he should be making a statement by doing book burnings. I mean, I think about Nazis and stuff when I'm thinking about public book burnings and stuff like that now. Yeah. So I had a debate with him and so on whether he should be doing that. But we at the same time I was wondering in my head why are so many Muslims upset that this guy's burning a Quran when Uthman, the third of the rightly guided caliphs, burned all the Qurans? That's in the Muslim sources. Everyone's flipping out over this guy burning one Quran when Uthman burned all of the Qurans. Why aren't Muslims bothered by that? And the reason is Muslims don't know about it. So Nabil and I were just goofing off, and we made a video called The Original Burn the Quran Day, where about Uthman, who's a Muslim caliph, a Muslim leader, burning all the Qurans to cover up all the differences and then issuing an authoritative version. So we made a video just goofing off about that and posted it on YouTube. Again, we're just having fun and stuff, trying to get some information out there. And I noticed after, I don't know how long it was, like a week or 10 days or something, and it had 100,000 views on it. And I thought, well, that's cool. People are watching it. But then that was the first time I clicked on YouTube Analytics, and YouTube Analytics told me where people were watching it. Right. And at the top of the list was like the United States, and then like Great Britain, English-speaking countries. Yep. But I got down to like 7th or 8th place, and it said 3.6% Pakistan. And I thought 3.6% of 100,000? It's 3,600 people. Right. That we just told a lot of information that they would have never heard in their entire lifetimes in Pakistan. And you couldn't go there and speak there publicly saying that. You get killed after 36 people, let alone 3,600. And went down a couple more places, and it's like 2.8% Saudi Arabia. So when I started looking, and people are watching this in Muslim countries, which means that they're looking for it. They're looking for it. Right. And that's when it kind of hit me that we've just entered a new age of humanity here, where places that for 14 centuries their leaders could keep them insulated from hearing criticisms of Islam and from hearing about alternatives to Islam, whereas they could keep them insulated for all of this time. Now you can reach those people, anyone that has an internet connection, which is going to be a lot of people in those countries. Sure. And so it's just shifted. And so that's when it kind of hit me, wait a minute, maybe this shouldn't be an afterthought. Maybe I should be focusing on this a lot. And since then it's been sort of focus on YouTube first, speaking and debating is secondary to that.
Yeah, because you're scaling yourself there, because once you do a video once, right now while we're talking, somebody's watching your videos, right? So once
you make it, people keep watching it. And what's cool is again, people watch it in different places, and some of my after the United States lately, the number two has been India. where people are most frequently, and some on some videos, India is number one now.
Interesting.
Like it'll be India number one and the United States number two. And so there's a massive hunger out there where places like India are outranking the United States in the number of people who are watching it. And I mean, think about this. Back in the day, if I wanted to go get this information across to people in India, I would, one, have to travel there, and two, have to travel around India, going to churches or wherever else. And now I can sit in my room and make a video in front of my bookshelf and they all watch it. So this is just, Christians for 14 centuries couldn't have even dreamed of having these opportunities to reach people around the world. And so I think we need to pay attention to the times we're living in.
Sure. So let's talk about the bookshelf. So you're, I wouldn't say, now you've recently been kind of upping your video quality. This thing that we're doing today, and this is a lot of production around this, but one thing that I've always been impressed with you is you just go and like get started and then just make the video. So talk to me a little, maybe somebody's on the fence right now and they're like, I don't have the best camera. I don't have the best. What would you encourage them to?
Yeah, well, if you watch some of my earlier videos, I mean, we had a cheap camcorder, which was, it was like $600 or $700 back then, but it's something you'd pay probably $100, $150 right now, or could do better with your cell phone than what we were recording. I was recording with 4 or 5 years ago. Back then, I didn't even have a mic. I didn't even use a mic. It was just, I got my camera set up. And so if you look at some of my earlier videos, it's a pretty rough background noise and so on. But you can look at some of those videos, and some of those videos have 500,000 hits, 800,000 hits, and stuff like that. Right. So people were watching it. And so I've concluded, at the end of the day, you can have great production value and stuff, but good content has to be the core, right? It's good content. Focus on good content, and after that, do everything you can to increase the quality, the quality of the production. But you can have beautiful production value, and if the content isn't good, people aren't going to come. But if you have good content, people are going to come in spite of the production value. And if you can increase it, if you can make it, awesome resolution, 4K, and great sound and everything else, then that's when they're really gonna be checking you out.
Yeah. So content is king, right? Yeah. So let's talk about content. Your content is, I think it's in a different category than a lot of ministry types of content. So I would describe it as it's very bold, it's funny, it uses a lot of sarcasm. And cultural references, sometimes even cultural references that I could imagine certain Christian ministries being afraid to even make the cultural reference joke, because it's like, oh, that means that we're in on understanding this vile, terrible thing. But you really go for it, and it's pretty aggressive. Like you're very direct. It's not soft. So tell me, like, has that just always been your style? Is that something you've kind of pushed into?
It's several factors. I'll give three. One, I am kind of like that. Okay. And so that's just conversations with me, and I tend to do well having conversations with people who have that personality. Just say what you mean, right? Right. You don't worry about being nice. Just tell me what you mean, and we'll argue about it. And it's fun, right? It's not, oh, you hurt my feelings. It's okay, we're disagreeing. Cool, let's argue for 3 hours. That's a fun thing to do. So that's kind of one, personality-wise. That is kind of how I am. Sure. Two, I deal a lot with Islam. And I found out through personal experience that Muslims tend to respond better to an aggressive approach. Christians in the West are told, no, don't do that. Don't talk about the Quran. Don't talk about Muhammad. You're just going to offend them, and then they're going to run away. And everyone, all Christians almost across the board have absorbed this idea. I found through trial and error and experience over and over again, it's absolute nonsense. Muslims may complain more if you talk about Muhammad. They may throw a tantrum if you talk about Muhammad. But at the end of the day, they respect you more, right? They respect you more for coming right at their views. And I kind of found out the difference in response when Nabil and I were watching a debate one day, and we finished the debate. I thought it was one of the most one-sided debates I've ever seen in my life. William Lane Craig just crushed Jamal Badawi. And Badawi at the end started yelling and screaming and stuff like this. And so you and I see someone yelling at the end of a debate, you think you lost, right? You lost. You lost your cool, you lost your head. It's because you're frustrated, you know you're losing. This is over, right? We finished, and I asked Nabil, I said, so what'd you think? And he goes, well, Badawi clearly won. So he picked a Muslim debater, right? Now, I understand there are Christians who will just side with their debater, and Muslims who will just side with their debater. Nabil's smart, and he was a debater, and he was trained in communication So he's not the sort of person who's just going to side with his debater. What was he saying that I was missing? And it took me years to unpack this, but I eventually got it out of him. When Badabi was yelling, we're looking at it like, oh, you lost, you're frustrated.
Right.
Nabil was watching this, and he was thinking, you see how confident he is. And he's yelling because he's so passionate for the truth. And deep down, he knows it's true. And he knows that this Christian guy is blaspheming and leading people astray, and it's giving him a kind of righteous anger. The Christian is calm, not because he knows he's winning. The Christian is calm because deep down, he's not passionate about it, because deep down, he doesn't believe what he's saying. And I got that out of Nabil. And eventually, I start seeing that over and over again with other Muslims. And eventually, I started debating. And I would, in the first debates I was in, I would try to be like as nice as possible, because I know I'm giving information about Islam that might hurt their feelings and stuff. And I would give this information as gently as possible, and they would walk out, ha, he's so weak. And then I eventually got annoyed. I'm like, I would give the exact same information, but I would be saying it like, how can you believe this? This is the most obvious false prophet in history. And they walk out of there going, he's destroying our religion. I was like, wait, is that all you're just listening to how I'm presenting it rather than the information? So I started taking note of those kinds of things. So one, I am kind of personally like that too.
Right.
I found out that Muslims respond better to that kind of approach. But the third one is that approach just kind of works better on the internet. And it doesn't have to be that approach. It is one of the approaches that works well on the internet. And what I mean here is lots of Christians who are in ministry and then try to get on YouTube as well. The tools that would help you do well as a speaker and minister in certain ways don't necessarily translate to things that will be successful on YouTube. So if you're a Christian apologist or a speaker and stuff, you go speak on a college campus.
Right.
Once people come in there and sit down, they're kind of committed, meaning they can get up and walk out if you bore them, right? But it's kind of work, and something else has to attract, that you have to really be boring them to do the work of getting up and leaving and being seen and so on. So once people are sitting down, once you've attracted an audience, they're kind of there, right? On the internet, on YouTube, if you're in a video and you're talking, a ton of alternatives to you are literally one click away.
Right.
So you'd better be holding their attention the entire time you're speaking. You better be a better option than everything else that is right beside them that they could click on in a heartbeat. If you lose their attention for 10 seconds, oh my goodness, click on this, it looks better. Right. And they'll click on that. And so they're going to jump around. And so you need more than just good information. Because guess what? Unless you have some brilliant new information that no one else has, there are other sites that also have that information.
Right.
And they're going to be presenting it differently. And if they're presenting it in a better way that's more entertaining or that resonates with people more, well, people are going to go watch them. And then they're going to subscribe to them. And then they're going to get their information from them.
Of course.
So, and not from you. So you have to have not just the information, but how you're packaging it. And people just respond well to things like humor and sarcasm and all of that. So works well for me, works well for Muslims, works well for success on the internet. So that's what I'm doing.
Sarcasm is a funny thing because sometimes it is not understood. And so I bet sometimes you probably read some comments and are like, oh my goodness, how do they not understand sarcasm? So, but don't be afraid of it. Is that what you're saying? Like, don't be afraid of sarcasm. Don't be afraid of humor.
I would say, don't try to be sarcastic unless it's like your personality type, right? Because you don't want to look like you're forcing it. But if just naturally you're sarcastic and you're not, it's to help the point along, and it helps convey the point along. Well, guess what? I mean, Paul is one of the most sarcastic writers in history. If you read his letters, Paul was very, very sarcastic. And if you don't understand his sarcasm, you won't understand his message. When he goes, crafty fellow that I am, I caught you with trickery. He's talking about all the things he's done, right?
Right.
And someone has accused him of he's just tricking you into believing. So he says, crafty fellow that I am, I caught you with trickery. He's obviously not saying that, saying, guys, I really caught. That would be a bad way to get the message across.
Right.
By the way, I tricked you all. Ha ha.
One little pro tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's saying it sarcastically. So he obviously believes that there are times for sarcasm and times when sarcasm can help a message along. And so it's biblical.
Yeah, nice. It's biblical. Sarcasm. If you get nothing else out of this video, sarcasm is biblical. So when we look at like using humor, doing these different pieces of the equation, you have an audience in mind, right? So there's certain people that you're probably like, that's fine that they're going to hate this, because there's other people that are really attracted to it. So talk to me a little bit about polarizing your audience.
Yeah. Well, it's I understand that there are different ways of doing things, right? Like I hear from Christians all the time who say, David, in my church, here's how we do things, and we've had success just preaching the gospel to Muslims. And so we just focus on loving Muslims and preaching the gospel to them. Well, that's great. I've heard from tons of Muslims who left Islam after watching my videos, where I'm steadily blasting away at the foundational beliefs about their prophet. So when Christians say, David, here's how we do things, I don't say, no, you need to do things the way that I do them. Right. Because guess what? There are Muslims out there who just need to hear a clear presentation of the gospel.
Sure.
Right? There are Muslims out there who will be more inclined to listen to just a very loving, very nice Christian, especially if it's a Muslim who's getting upset about jihad and wondering, is this really rooted in Islam? This view that God doesn't love unbelievers and you can go and kill them and so on. And then they hear, no, Jesus tells us to love even our enemies, because our God loves not just us, but loves everyone, right? When they hear that resonates with them, and they can be attracted to the gospel that way. But there are also Muslims, and Nabil was one of them. Nabil and I spent years talking about foundational Christian beliefs, and as we discussed these things, he didn't tell me this until after he became a Christian, but he said, as we're going through discussions on Jesus' death by crucifixion, his resurrection, the deity of Christ, the reliability of the New Testament, he said he was always thinking in his head, Christians actually have a good case for what they believe right here. But even if they show me with 99% certainty that these things are true, I'm still 100% sure that Islam is true. And so we would, for someone like that who's completely confident in Islam, you would always lose no matter how much evidence you're giving.
Right.
And so the only way for him to take this alternative to Islam seriously was for him to not have that 100% certainty. And so I'm glad that we eventually started discussing Islamic topics and why Muhammad's not a prophet and why the Quran is not the word of God. Things that Christians say you shouldn't discuss because you'll end up hurting a Muslim's feeling, and then he's never going to listen to you again. I'm glad we started to, because most of the people I know who've left Islam after finding out a bunch of things they were taught when they're growing up are false. And so I believe that some people do need to be going after those false beliefs and refuting and exposing them. With that said, I don't think that everyone needs to do it. I don't think everyone needs to be dealing with Islam at all. And even with people who are dealing with Islam, you can do that in different ways. And so it's good. Sure. There should be different approaches, because there are different kinds of Muslims who are going to respond to different things. But there are a large number of Muslims out there who respond to a more aggressive approach, who won't watch you if you're just giving information, but will watch you if you're coming right at them and you're sarcastic and you're funny, and they will watch it, and they will be angry at first, but a year later you hear, hey, remember me? I used to argue with you. Yeah, I've left Islam. So that just I think that's the way to reach a certain subset of Muslims, and there are Christians who are upset and angry, and hey, that's not the way to go about things. But as long as I keep hearing from Muslims who are leaving Islam, I got to say, if this Muslim says thank you for making that video because it was awesome, and this Christian says, oh, you shouldn't make that video because Muslim will never listen to it, I got to go with the Muslim, right?
Right. So you're fine with polarizing the audience, getting certain people to go, this is not for me, because for every one of those people that's going to do that, there's a whole other set that's going to be highly magnetized.
There are billions of people in the world.
Right.
There are billions of people in the world. So there are enough people for all kinds of different content, right? Unless you're just totally off the wall and you are the only person who has a certain attitude and a certain style and so on that no one else is going to like. Unless you're that person, well, there are going to be people with similar personalities and who are looking for similar content. So
Sure.
yeah, as long as if you have good content, they're going to be people who watch it.
Yeah. So what's kind of some final advice for ministries that maybe in some ways they're going to be emboldened by hearing you say that, going, oh, I have this idea, but I knew it's going to make some people mad. They may not like it. And I'm not saying like everybody needs to make the same style. I think we're being very clear that there's all kinds of styles, like you said, that people need to do. But for that person that's like, I want to just talk to my organization and encourage them to be a little more targeted. Because I guess what I'm getting at is so many ministries we talk to, when we ask them who they're trying to reach, the answer to that is everyone. And we're like, well, you can't reach everyone because that's also my job. Why are you taking my job away? It's all of us, right? And all of us are in it together, and we all have different parts to play. So what would be like some final advice for that ministry that maybe is like trying to be a little bolder with whatever direction they're going to go? What would you just say?
Yeah, I would say one, be clear about what you want. Be clear about who you're trying to reach, because I don't believe it's possible to reach everyone, because there are so many competitors out there. There are so many different YouTube channels, and people will find someone they like to watch, and that's what they're going to do when they're on their lunch break or something like that. They're going to watch someone that they like and someone that they trust. So you kind of have to figure out whom you're trying to reach, and I would say try and take information, have good information, and put it out there better than anyone else. And that could include a variety of different methods, but somehow, and you know, this not. I don't want to make it look like I'm in competition with these other ministries and stuff, but on the internet, it's just a fact. You're in competition for people's attention span.
That's right.
There are too many alternatives out there, and if you're a Christian trying to reach other people, guess what? You're in competition with atheists who are trying to reach them. You're in competition with just completely mindless entertainment out there. So if you want people watching your stuff, it has to be high quality. They have to know why they're watching, and it's just sad that. I mean, it's not sad, but it's sad for if you are trying to reach everyone. It's a sad reality that there are too many different people out there who like too many different things.
Totally.
But chances are, again, unless you're some off-the-wall person, chances are there are people out there who would like your style of approach. If you can keep it interesting, there are enough people out there that you can have a successful YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I mean, think about it. I make videos sitting in front of my bookshelf, right? There are huge, massive ministries out there, right?
Right.
On YouTube, I'm beating them all.
Right.
I have the biggest apologetics YouTube channel on the planet. Now, how is it that someone can get vastly more viewers that, just making videos in front of a bookshelf than like Ravi Zacharias International Ministry, who have tons of speakers, who've been doing apologetics for years, who have vastly more influence. And at the end of the day, I just take a more YouTube-friendly approach, and so learn YouTube, learn what people want. And one thing you can learn by trial and error, right? You start to notice over time.
Yep.
You start making content, stick with it over time. So start making a video. I would at first, if someone's starting out, focus on one a week. And then once you get comfortable making one a week, it gets easier, right? It gets easier setting up the camera and setting up the mic and editing and stuff, using iMovie. This gets easier over time.
Right.
And once you're comfortable with one a week, then try and go for 2 a week and just stick with that. And you're going to learn so much. You're going to see, wait, why did this video take off and this one didn't?
Right.
And you start noticing the trends and the patterns and so on, and that allows you to hone in on your approach and what's going to be a successful approach. And you just work it out over time. And so the main advice would be just don't quit. Right? Too many people, I tried YouTube for 3 months and it didn't work. Well, I mean, it took me a couple of years. It took me a few years to get to 7,000 subscribers. Now I get over that every month, right? And it's it takes a while. The hardest part is getting started. The hardest part is getting started. The first year is the hardest. After that, it just gets easier and easier. So decide what you want to do, come up with a plan, learn as you go along, and stick with it, and it'll work.
And I would just add to that, and be willing to not try to go after everybody. Be willing to have certain people not like what it is.
And one thing is just if there's someone you like on YouTube, think, what is it that I like about this person?
Right.
And even if it's a non-Christian, right? Even if it's a non-Christian, you say, I really like this person's vlogs and the way this person does the vlogs. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a Christian channel that did things similarly, but it's Christian content?
Sure.
Because if you like that vlog and other people like the vlog, and that guy has a lot of subscribers, there are people who like that approach. And so you can sort of take what you like and modify it for your channel. And yeah, you don't have there is no winning over everyone. So it's a focus on the people who are going to like your approach, and
right.
It takes a while to find them. It takes a while to find them because they're spread out all over the world. But guess what? In a world of more than 7 billion people, there are enough people out there who like your approach that if you get it out to if they find your channel, they're gonna stick with it.
Times the world, it's still a big audience.
Yeah.
David, thanks for taking time with us today. I hope this has been encouraging to each of you, and I hope you can take some action out of this, get in momentum, start doing it, and be willing to polarize your audience, get really focused on who it is you're trying to reach, and you'll find that the more focus you can get on that, what we've seen over and over is each ministry begins to skyrocket as they really zone in on being who it is that they're trying to reach and doing it with your style, not necessarily David's style, but don't be afraid of David's style either, but be true to who you are, but do it in a way that attracts the kind of persona, the kind of audience that you're trying to reach. Thanks for your time today. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. Make sure and like and subscribe to our channel. Click that bell so that you'll be notified every time we have a new video coming out. And I wanted to make you aware that we have some incredibly awesome resources totally free for you, whether you are or are not an Echo customer. Just go to echoglobal.org/resources and you can look at all of them totally free. echoglobal.org/resources. Like seriously, like now is a great time to go. echoglobal.org/resources.